Tonight, it's the 2-0 Buffalo Bills against the 0-2 Miami Dolphins. I am Scott McGregor. Welcome to the official return of Before They Kick Off. Joining me on the program, find out now. Let's get rolling. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen, to Before They Kick Off, our Buffalo Bills pregame show right here on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. We are joined by a host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, and for all of you Dolphins fans out there, Dolphins postgame. There is a lot to get to. We may not get to the inactives, but they count as the injury report as well. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But first, let's jump into the ball game. And we'd like to welcome Thomas into the studio. Thomas, first of all, happy game day to you. I understand it hasn't been quite as friendly to the Miami Dolphins so far. And I also understand, based on what you have reported, that it's been, I don't want to say a rough start for Miami, but it's not really been Miami Dolphins football 2 weeks into the season. Let's start there. Head coaches Sean McDermott and Mike McDaniel, and of course quarterback matchup Tua Tagovailoa for the Dolphins and for the Buffalo Bills. It could be Mitch Trubisky. It also could be Josh Allen, and likely would be Josh Allen. But remember, Bills Mafia, Josh suffered a hit to the nose in week number 2, even though the Bills were able to get, off of a James Cook game last week, a 30-10 victory over the New York Jets, excuse me. I meant to say the Jets, not the Giants. And speaking of whom, we will talk about that later in the show as we get you set up for what is still to come in the week 3 schedule. Will we necessarily touch on who's playing who next week? Yes, for Miami and Buffalo. No, for the Sunday and Monday action. All right, I think I've talked quite a bit. Thomas, let's talk Miami for a second. Enlighten us a little bit on what we've missed.
Well, I mean, Dolphins fans who are tuning in to this show and possibly tuning into week number 3 of this NFL season, you really haven't missed much unless you're in conversations with a lot of people who are talking about Mike McDaniel does not deserve to be here anymore, the whole coaching organization and whatnot. I mean, you really haven't missed much. It's basically off-season football for Dolphins heading into week number 3 of the season. I have mentioned to Dolphins fans and fans of the teams they have faced in the first 2 weeks of the season that there is still the likelihood of some club dubs coming out for wins. So if and when those happen is still in question. But I mean, we saw the game preview. I'm sure a lot of people looked at NFL's week 3 game preview for Thursday Night Football. We saw what the experts were saying. We saw what a lot of people were saying about it. I mean, it's pretty set in stone, right? It's pretty set in stone. They all think Dolphins aren't going to win against the Bills. However, I don't think that is necessarily the case. You mentioned Mitch Trubisky, Josh Allen, and what the quarterback matchups could be for this matchup. I mean, is there a likelihood that the Dolphins find a way to win this game? Yeah, there's definitely a likelihood. However, you never really know until it is officially over, right? I mean, take you back to week 1 of the Buffalo Bills game, Sunday Night Football. Now, of course, the Dolphins played before that, and they lost 33-8 to the Indianapolis Colts. But let's take it back to Sunday Night Football for a second. This is just the second primetime matchup for the Buffalo Bills, and only the first of many primetime matchups for the Dolphins this season. Now, we all know where the Dolphins are headed. They're headed for off-season football. At least some Dolphin fans, not going to name them on the show because that wouldn't be sporting of me, but they are obviously thinking that we're going for the number 1 pick overall for the Miami Dolphins, and that's good. That's good. That's good that we all think that. But can we at least show some effort to bring some wins in? Does that start tonight? Maybe. Does that start Monday when we face the Jets? Probably. I don't know. A lot of news is broken out, especially the fact that Tyreek Hill might be on the move to a different team. There's just so much bad news going in on Dolphins Nation this NFL season, and we're only 2 weeks in. Does Mike McDaniel stay as coach? Where is Tyreek Hill thinking of going? Is Tua going to be the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins? There's so much news that's going on around this team, Dolphins Nation, that I'm almost hesitant to say that if we lose against the Jets and we lose against the Bills, which is a likely scenario given what the experts say at NFL. If you've watched the game preview, I'll put the link in the description in case you didn't see it. If you want to see what the reality of it was on our Dolphin postgame show, as I will with the victory speech for Buffalo's locker room or whoever wins this game, we'll do the same with the Indianapolis Colts and, of course, the New England Patriots, which you can find week 2's matchups for Buffalo and, of course, the Dolphins available right now on Sports for Beginners and, of course, on the ice and behind the benches momentarily, as well as this show. We'll have those conversations for you. The victory speech locker rooms will be added into episodes descriptions to prevent copyright infringement, but I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about those copyright things. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about football, right? Right?
Yes, we are. And speaking of that, let's quickly take a look at our schedule here for week number 3. I'm gonna bring it up here on my, we're not gonna share the screen here, but I have my notes up ready for it. So I'm not gonna share the screen here, but we have a couple of good ones. I even have it up on my phone on the NFL app. Download the app for yourself to follow your favorite football club all year long. So, of course, we got tonight's game, the Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. This game will be final Bills. Include a couple of great games at 1 p.m. Eastern, including the 1-1 Falcons against the 0-2 Panthers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here. The Atlanta Falcons taking on the 0-2, I should say, Carolina Panthers. Start out our Sunday schedule. You also got the Green Bay Packers being hosted by the Cleveland Browns. The Minnesota Vikings will host the Cincinnati Bengals. The 1-1 Jacksonville Jaguars will be hosting the 0-2 Houston Texans. The Steelers pay a visit to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Commanders will be hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. We also have the Tennessee Titans hosting the Indianapolis Colts. This is going to be an interesting 1 o'clock showdown. The Philadelphia Eagles against the Los Angeles Rams. This is going to be an interesting showdown. Over in the late window at 4:05 and 4:25 p.m., we've got the Denver Broncos in Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. We've got the Saints, who the Buffalo Bills will play next week, against the Seattle Seahawks.
As he mentioned, the 1 o'clock games include the Carolina Panthers 0-2 against the 1-1 Atlanta Falcons, and of course, the Green Bay Packers are 2-0. They're taking on the 0-2 Cleveland Browns. The Texans will take care of business against the 1-1 Jaguars with hopes to try and get their first win of the season on the board. That, of course, is at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time as well. and it is the 2-0 Houston Texans taking on the Jaguars 1-1. The Steelers taking on the Patriots. That's one of my games to watch. It's a 1-1 showdown between the 1-1 Patriots and the 1-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. That's one of the ones I'm looking forward to. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Detroit Lions fans, a game to keep an eye on, even though it's early in the season, would be the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 2-0 to start the season. The Minnesota Vikings are hoping to go 2-1 on the season with a victory over Cincinnati. Will that happen? Who knows? The remaining 1 o'clock games include the 1-1 Las Vegas Raiders taking on the 1-1 Washington Commanders. It's Tyler Rowland and the Tennessee Titan fans taking on the Tennessee Titans opponent of the 2-0 Indianapolis Colts. Shout out to Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans, your team every day. I look forward to tuning in to your shows when I have a chance to do so, Mr. Tyler Rowland, and of course catch him on the morning weekday edition of Locked On NFL, where he's known as the Madman, Tyler Rowland. We're getting ahead of ourselves. That game also at 1 o'clock, alongside the Raiders and Commanders. The Jets are taking on the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers, well, they are 2-0 on the season, and the Jets are 0-2 on the season. It looks like their logo's changing, Scott. I wonder if there's anything we could pick up on our Tampa Bay Buccaneers news before we wrap up this show. Looks like there's something going on with the logo. I wonder what that could be. We'll see what that is. The Rams will take on the defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Both teams are 2-0 to start the season, but only one team will be 3-0 heading into week number 4 of the season, with the other team stopping for 2-1 into week 3. Will that be the Rams, or will that be the Eagles? Who knows? Your 4 o'clock slate. I'll take over for Scott on the 4 o'clock slate. In the Denver Broncos, they lead the charge against the Chargers. Speaking of leading the charge, 5 minutes after 4 o'clock p.m. is when that game gets going. Around the same time, we have the 0-2 New Orleans Saints taking on the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks. And the Chargers are 2-0. They're taking on 1-1 Denver Broncos team, who lost week 2 to the Indianapolis Colts. We'll talk about it. Around 4:25 on the Eastern Coast, we have the Cowboys taking on the Bears. It's the 0-2 Bears versus the 1-1 Cowboys. And the 2-0 Cardinals are taking on the 2-0 49ers at 4:25 as well. Again, just like the 1 o'clock matchup, that is the 2-0 Eagles versus the 2-0 Rams. One team is going 3-0 into week 3. One team is going 2-1. Who is that going to be? I don't know, but it looks like a fun matchup. Seems like Sunday always feels like, when we're only now 3 weeks into the season, seems like every time we go to that week, it will be that kind of a matchup.
Yes, and to your point, before we get to the other primetime games, the Monday Night Football, which is the 1-1 Lions over the 1-1, I should say, against the 1-1 Ravens. That's on Monday Night Football. And then, of course, on Sunday Night Football, it's the 0-2 Chiefs against the 0-2 Giants. It's a matter of when a team is facing a team that's already lost 2 games, and another team that is facing that team has also lost 2 games in the season. It's a matter of who's going to win the first game in week number 3. So there you have it. There's your slate. We had a couple of technical issues there when we were talking about the schedule. But then again, the games on Sunday, September the 21st, and Monday, September 22nd, will not be final by the time we talk to you on the post-game show for Thursday Night Football. And you know what that means? On our post-game show, depending on when we record it, we get a chance to chime in on those primetime games and some of the early games on Sunday with our picks. With that being said, we're not gonna do picks for tonight's game, but that will take us to our first break of the show. Before we do take our first break of the program, let's take a look at some key matchups for Miami and Buffalo. One of the key showdowns is going to be the quarterback matchup, which we talked about off the top. Josh versus Tua, or Tua versus, well, Mitch. But Thomas, I would like to know, regardless on who the quarterback matchup is, what is one key matchup you're going to be looking at when watching this ball game tonight between Miami and Buffalo?
I mean, honestly, if I'm being honest, Dolphins fans and Bills fans, of course, thank you for joining us. If you are tuning into the game, and of course, if you are going to be tuning in to the game preview, which I'll have here in the link of our description of the episode below, I've mentioned that one of the key matchups that I'm looking at is both teams' defensive alignment. Defensively, in the game that the Buffalo Bills won on Sunday Night Football, week 1 of the season, week 2 was just what everybody was calling the Buffalo Bills Ravens revenge defense game. Only the Buffalo Bills were taking on the Jets in week 2, not the Ravens. So too bad it's not like baseball where you can't play a 2-game series and then you're playing Baltimore after you just played them the previous night and came back to win it 41-40 on Sunday Night Football's opener. And while you may have beaten the New York Ravens, since the Buffalo defense was titled Get Their Revenge in week number 2, I guess the New York Jets are playing Let's Get Our Revenge over the Buffalo Bills in their Sunday contest against the Buccaneers. That's going to be a New York Jet versus Buffalo Buccaneers defense matchup. Whereas the Dolphins, it would be Buffalo Bill defense versus Miami Dolphin defense. And the way I look at it here for the Miami Dolphin defense, I could tell you the key matchups that I think would happen offensively, but really, I think this matchup's only going to depend on the defense. And look, I said it off the top of the show, and I'm going to take us to our first break. I said it off the top of the show. This team, from what I'm hearing from Dolphins Nation, is, and I'm not mentioning names, but they're tanking to get the number 1 pick in the NFL season for next season. So the NFL draft to begin next season. Now, this is where I stand on our Dolphin season. Starting 0-2 seems like a lost season, and it very well could be if we're 0-3 after losing to the Bills. If and when that does happen. And I'm not saying this to discredit the Dolphin fans I'm listening to. You guys are right that could be what the Dolphins' plans are. However, we are hoping that something does turn up for the Dolphins sooner rather than later. We already know based on what you guys are saying, and I'm not discrediting you, I'm actually crediting you because you're right. Maybe that is the plan. But my question, Dolphins fans, is you want Mike McDaniel gone, like he's fired. Whether or not that happens, my question to you is who else wants to coach the Dolphins? Who wants to coach them? We're only 3 weeks into the season and we're already thinking about firing the coach. Well, 2 weeks into the season, but coming on the 3rd week. By the time we hit week 4, I guess the question to every Dolphins fan is, who cares about the ball game? How many games before we can finally say we fired Mike McDaniel? I mean, look, I get it. It seems like he's, on the hot seat of being fired. Usually I wait and see until the end of the season, but it looks like our end of the season for the Dolphins, it seems to be coming up really fast. I'll leave it at this. The question for you Dolphins fans up until Dolphins postgame and even the next Dolphins postgame is if you're the Dolphins and you're finding a new head coach this early in the season, should we fire Mike McDaniel? Who do you think will coach the Dolphins next? And will that create a sense of betterness for the next season? So I'll leave you with that. Let's take a break and we'll come back with more for before they kick off.
Yes, let's take a break. We'll come back right after this from our good friends over at CNT Radio and Broadcast Map. Getting you set for Bills and Dolphins. Kickoff is at 8:15 p.m. It is 4:20 p.m. Will we have the inactives? Probably not. Will we get an opportunity to take a look at the injury report? We will see. But coming up next, my thoughts and Thomas's on how the Bills got to where they are so far. And where can they go from here if they lose tonight or defeat the fish? In other words, squish the fish in prime time. Those thoughts and more, including our calm before the storm right after the break. Stay with us.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Bills and the Dolphins. This one's in Buffalo. Divisional opponent, obviously. Short week for both of these teams.
Can Miami make it interesting?
We love sports. We just don't know what's going to happen.
They're going to Buffalo.
Yep.
We know what type of offense they are and what they can be and what they've shown in the past.
All the speed they have, they're one big way from a touchdown. Got some good guys up front, and then, they got some experience in the back end.
The Dolphins are 0-2. They looked a lot more competitive last week against the Patriots than they did.
For a Thursday game, I'm feeling probably the best I have, maybe ever.
We are in a moment of history right now. Something special's happening.
There you have it, the calm before the storm. Dolphins Bills coming up in a matter of moments. We're about an hour away from kickoff as we speak. Welcome back to Before They Kick Off on Sports for Beginners Only. Joined now once again by our host of Dolphins Postgame, Thomas McGregor. Time now to look at some keys to the game. But first, let's talk about how the Buffalo Bills got to where they are come Thursday Night Football. You already know from earlier in the show when Thomas talked about Buffalo, the Baltimore game ended in a close one, but it also ended in comeback fashion. And I guess we technically have already talked about it when it comes to the Jets and the Bills. But Thomas, before we get down to some key matchups besides Josh and Tua, I'm curious, what are your takeaways? First, from Dolphins Patriots in week number 2. What do you think Miami did well, and what do you think they may have to work on to get against Buffalo? We'll get to keys to the victory momentarily, but first I want to talk takeaways from both these teams' week 2 opponents. What did you like? What did you not like? Let's start with Miami and New England.
Yeah. So listen, I really thought that the Patriots and the Dolphins game was kind of a garbage game to some people's concept, but for me it was one of those, let's see if the Dolphins are really tanking this season. And for the moment, when you watch the game, whether you watched it live or you watched the highlights, for the moment, it felt like the Dolphins actually were going to win. I mean, it was 33 final in favor of the New England Patriots. But I mentioned in Dolphins postgame that when it was Patriots 30 and the Dolphins 27, all the Dolphins had to do was literally kick a field goal and tie the game up at 30-30. So all they had to do was really get Riley Patterson into field goal range and tie the game up at 30-30. Then you ask the question of, okay, this is what the game looks like, and this is what the game could be like in Thursday Night Football, which I think it could be the case. I mean, Dolphin fans, are we upset that it ended that way, 27? Yeah, sure. But this could have ended badly for the Patriots. Now, most Dolphin fans wouldn't like that it would have happened, because then, as I said off the top of the show, you would have the question be, as I said off the top of the show, where is Mike McDaniel going? Is he on the hot seat? Is he getting fired? All those types of Dolphin questions that would come into a tanking season where fans are like, we're taking you out, coach. We're taking this guy out. We're taking that guy out. We're taking this guy out. We're cleaning house. Basically off-season moves that you wouldn't see in the regular season until basically it was time for the offseason. So some of the key takeaways I took from it was the back-to-back Patriot-Dolphin exchange points where you had Antonio Gibson return a kickoff from Riley Patterson, 90 yards into the Miami end zone for a touchdown. Patriots. And then, of course, that I believe it was 65 yards, if I'm not mistaken, in the stats total. 65-yard punt return from Washington. I think it was at Washington with that 65-yard punt. That was another key takeaway for that. I mean, honestly, there wasn't really much to look forward to in game number 2 of the NFL season for the Dolphins, other than the fact that you just kept asking yourself every minute of the game, if you were watching it live, you just kept asking yourself, I thought we were tanking. Wait, no, we're not tanking. Yes, we are tanking. No, we're not tanking. It was basically 1 minute you're thinking, this is the team. I just have to roll with it. On the other hand, you were thinking, okay, Dolphins, I get it. We're tanking this season and we are getting ready for the next off season, right? So I mean, Dolphins fans, I would love to see them pick up a victory sooner rather than later. So that way we could discuss just what the Dolphins are doing this entire season. Now, I know a lot of you who have been with the Dolphins, win or lose season, lost or winning season, not naming names, but you get to the point at this point in the season where you kind of don't want to be, where you're kind of thinking already off season. Now, I get it. You want to get someone who's the #1 draft pick of the next NFL season. I get it. But I would kind of give this team a chance because I already stated it in the Patriots game when Scott asked for my key takeaways, and it wasn't many other than the Dolphins have to improve on defense and the offense has to show up. I think some Dolphin fans who were predicting how this game would go if the Dolphins were to win Thursday Night Football tonight, and that was get ahead and stay. Make the Bills try to fight you for the win. Scott, you and I have used the term phrase that we've heard since it first came out when we first ever heard of it. Is it squash the fish time or is it eat the buffalo this time? And I got to be honest, whether it's squash the fish time or eat the buffalo time after Thursday Night Football, I'm just wondering, where do both teams go from there? I mean, you've got a team that's 2-0 versus a team that's 0-2. And ironically, one team's going to remain undefeated if you count losses to win a season or you count wins to win a season. So if this was a matter of battling for the basement, I'd say no matter how this game goes, you might want to shut the fans up a little bit and say, that seems a little far-fetched, a little unbiased, or maybe it's biased. I don't know what you guys think, but maybe you kind of want to keep the fans quiet. Make it an interesting ball game. Make tonight's game one of those, my goodness games. One of those ones you just sit there watching your TV screen, watching teams play, or you sit there watching the highlights and you go, man, that was entertaining. Or you look at it and you go, well, that's the reason our team sucks. Or that's the reason we get a little bit of a breather. If we're the undefeated winning team and we've lost a game and now we're suddenly 2-1. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills, you're kind of looking at this as like a toss-up game and saying, well, we lost to the Dolphins, but hey, we're okay with that. We're okay. We're okay with it, which basically means you're saying that, sure, we lost to the Dolphins, whatever. But if you're a team like the Dolphins and you lose to the Bills, you're just like, yeah, this is the season. This is the season that we're all watching. Just end it, NFL. Just end it for the Dolphins. Just end it. So, I mean, I don't know where to go with it. Now, let's talk Buffalo. Buffalo. And shout out to Ernie Clement. And there is definitely no hard feelings, Ernie and all of Bills Mafia, if the Bills are, as I've mentioned already, on a winning season. But you've got really tough games besides the Dolphins. Now, Dolphin fans, you might be saying, Bills Mafia's got easy games. Wait till the bye week and then tell us they've got tougher games. But you're forgetting one thing, and maybe you're not forgetting it. Maybe you're reminding yourself. The Bills have been to 4 Super Bowls, and each time they have failed. This could be the oh my goodness season of the Buffalo Bills that no one saw coming. I say that with the MLB. I say that with every sport. You look at a team who hasn't won a single trophy, or maybe they've won the trophy once before, and you're thinking every season that they drown, they lose a lot of games in. Football, there's only 18 weeks, but you'll get the idea of what I'm saying. You lose a lot of games, and you go to the offseason, and you go, well, let's pick this guy up. And then suddenly that guy ends up like the most powerful team you've ever had in the season. Buffalo has been to 4 Super Bowls. Since those years, they have not been to the Super Bowl. We all know that. So this would be the cutting edge story of a team that's been to Super Bowls, won Super Bowls, and now a team that's literally lost Super Bowls but has a chance to win Super Bowls. This is kind of like a Super Bowl matchup that never will happen. Maybe AFC Championship wise, but definitely not. It's definitely a Super Bowl matchup on Thursday Night Football, in my opinion. And whether you want to watch this game or not, I mean, that's your choice, but it's going to be a tough one.
For sure.
For sure, for the Dolphins.
For sure it will be. For sure it will be. We're going to pull it up right now. Going to pull it up right now, our injury report here. And I'll take over the Dolphins here. We'll give Thomas our Buffalo side. But actually, you know what? We'll do Dolphins for Thomas, and we'll actually do Buffalo. I'll give out the Buffalo one. Already that we know of so far here, according to the Bills website here, where I have the injury report, we know that the duo of Matt Milano and Ed Oliver will not play in this game. Cam Lewis, our defensive back, along with Taron Johnson, our cornerback, and Shaq Thompson, offensive linebacker, they are questionable. The status of Jordan Hancock, defensive back, is his game status is yet to be determined. He could play, but the 3 guys that are right now questionable, Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, and Shaq Thompson. Let's bring you over to Miami side. And Thomas, I see that 3 guys have been ruled out in Storm Duck. I'm not going to say the actual name because I might forget, I might pronounce it wrong. And Darren Waller, he has been ruled out. Now, the questionable guys that we have so far, besides guys that have no game status yet, I guess I'm kind of taking over here, Thomas, but 3 of those men that are questionable are Jalen Waddle, the Penguin, Chop Robinson, and Benito Jones. Of those questionable guys, who do you see playing in this game besides the 3 guys? Ifuto Malafon Wu, Storm Duck, and Darren Waller.
I would say that Storm Duck definitely would have played. It's kind of I don't know the proper word for it, but I would have saw this guy playing in this game. I think you'll definitely see Jalen Waddle, the Penguin, in this game. I think you'll see him in this game. How many snaps? I don't know. We'll have to tune in and watch. And if we're tuning into the highlights, we'll have to keep a close eye on the field. Look for him. Darren Waller, you mentioned, is out. I think Jalen Wright will show up. He hasn't been ruled out. He hasn't been ruled in. He hasn't been ruled questionable. So I think he's definitely coming in. Chop Robinson, yeah, he's going to be an out probably. Biento Jones, yeah, with an oblique injury, doesn't seem like he will play. Eric Brewer, I mean, I see him in some respects playing, but I don't think he will play. Ethan Boner, I mean, it's a hamstring injury. It's full contact sports. Ethan Boner playing against the Buffalo Bills would be like a kind of, what's the word you're looking for? Looks like a game time decision for me on that one. You're definitely not playing IM. You're definitely not playing IM. That's, of course, the first letter of this guy's name, the one before Storm Duck. You probably are playing Storm Duck, but he's already out. I would have said he would have been playing, but he's out. There's not many guys I see that's playing here. I definitely would say Jalen Waddle will get a start. Maybe not a lot of snaps, but he'll definitely get some starts in. Who from Buffalo do I see playing? Tara Johnson? Yeah, I don't know about Taron Johnson, I should say. Shaq Thompson? He's a game time decision for me. Cam Lewis? Would it be a good idea to put him in a shoulder injury? With a shoulder injury? I'd like to think not, but if he's in, hopefully you don't injure him. Matt Milano? I'm a little surprised Matt Milano is out, actually. I figured he might actually play. But given his injury, I could see why he won't play. Oliver, with an ankle injury? Oh yeah, you're not playing regardless. I mean, come on. It's full contact. You really think that a guy like him would want to risk an ankle injury? I don't think so. Speaking of ins and outs, I do have some A's, as in they will be playing, and I'll share the list based on what I have. The A's regard that they'll be in, and one of them is Jordan Hancock. He will be in full participation for tonight's Cam Lewis. I'm not sure they would use, like in Buffalo's case, I'm not sure they would risk playing them. As far as participants for the Dolphins go, Biento Jones looks like he could be out. Storm Duck is definitely out, and IM does not look like they are playing. It looks like he is out. Darren Waller is out. I mean, good idea. With the hip injury, I don't think that would work in the Dolphins' favor. That might just give the Bills the automatic win, because I do think he would be a problem for Buffalo to solve. Then you have Chop Robinson, Jalen Waddle, and Biento Jones. I think I could see those guys play, but I mean, I just don't know. I want to look at the previous matchup Buffalo and the Dolphins played, and I believe that was last November 2024 when the Dolphins had another close one. And they, as you see on my screen here with the previous matchup, it says it was 30-27 Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills, despite winning that game, they only won the game by a field goal. So all it took was Miami to score a field goal, and then it was pretty much anyone's game at the end of that final buzzer on the game clock. So I mean, with the injury reports, guys and ladies and gentlemen, this game for me is like a wait and see. Dolphins fans, we hope it's a victory, but so do Buffalo. I think it's a victory. We're getting closer and closer to kickoff, Scott. I think it's a good idea to use this time to provide some key standout players that we think will stand out in this competition. Let's try that.
Alrighty. Well, you know what? Normally, even though this is our middle segment of the show, we would start this by going into check in with Steve and Sean McDermott for the final thoughts. But because Sean and Steve are not meeting this week on a week 3 edition of the Sean McDermott Show, which is where we would get our final thoughts from, until next week, and maybe the week of the Patriot game. We'll see when that comes around. We'll give our final thoughts later, but for key players, this ties into key matchups. Let's just talk about it from a standout. I think Joey Bosa is going to continue where he left off after the quote-unquote revenge game by the Bills defense last go-around, where Buffalo defense really turned up the heat in the Jets game. They really turned up the heat despite everything that they went through against Lamar and the Ravens in week 1. Another guy, James Cook. Definitely going to be a guy I'm going to be watching. And James Cook, let me just say, dude, if you do exactly what you did when we played the Jets last week, you could have another breakout game. Dolphins key matchups. I'm curious to see what the decisions will be with Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa if he does start. Maybe you mix it up with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle if he does play. Maybe you go a few snaps to Tyreek, a few snaps to the Penguin, Jalen Waddle. But if Waddle doesn't play, I'm definitely keeping my eyes on Tua and Tyreek. And then you got to look out for Devon Achane. Achane looked like a guy on fire in that Patriots game. And we talk about snap penalties. That is going to be something I'm really looking forward to. What about you, Thomas? Couple of guys you're looking for?
Yeah, the couple of guys I'm looking for are a lot of Stephon Diggs type players. I'm looking at guys like Jalen Waddle. I'm looking at guys like Tyreek Hill. I'm definitely looking at Riley Patterson, and definitely if he does play Washington is a guy I'm looking at. I'm looking at him to see if anything transpires. I'm definitely more concerned about the quarterback matchup, whether it is Mitch Trubisky versus Tua, or it is Mitch Trubisky versus, I don't know, Zach Wilson, or a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, or whoever the Dolphins will put in as a quarterback. We'll see. But as far as the Buffalo guys are concerned, I'm looking to see how Tua fares no matter who the Buffalo Bills send out, whether it is Tua or it is Josh Allen. I'm looking to see who will fare better. Like I said before, the key thing I'm looking at is the defensive line. So I'm looking at all the defense.
So we'll see
what happens. And yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take another break. When we come back after this from our good friends over at Voices for Ability Radio for Take Another Look, the podcast, and a special announcement from Blue Jays Game Recap from yours truly, who has joined us in the studio, as well as a word from Weekly in Sports, our monthly program that we do. We will get you ready for the ball game with the keys to the game, plus what you can expect on the post-game shows that follow this pre-game show right here, exclusively only on Sports for Beginners, but maybe down the road, also moving on the ice and behind the benches. We'll take a quick timeout. When we return, keys to the game, Thomas and my final thoughts, plus what to expect as to how we cover the game tonight on our respective shows post-game day. You're listening to Before They Kick Off, a football program exclusively on Sports for Beginners, and we will continue getting you set for Dolphins Bills on the other side. It is 6:39 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back in just a little bit. By then, we may have the inactives, and we will set the game up for you. With that said, we'll be back in just a moment. Right after this, from Weekly in Sports, Take Another Look, the podcast, and our good friends from On the Ice and Behind the Benches on Blue Jays Game Recap. Stay with us. Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Whoa, what's going on, everyone? Host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches and Sports for Beginners' Blue Jays game recap show. Thomas McGregor here with you for the duration of this break in the action on Sports Beginners and On the Ice and Behind the Benches. Getting you set for what will be the most talked about series we probably have covered before we get to Kauffman Stadium against the Kansas City Royals. It's the Tampa Bay Rays and the Blue Jays in Steinbrenner Field. Game 1 is already in the books, but stay tuned. We've got good news coming your way throughout the next 3 games of this 4-game series. We'll have it all for you on the 4th game of this series is series finale. As soon as it goes final, we will talk about all of them. So don't worry, we'll have it for you. That's it for me. We'll see you on the Blue Jays game recap after the final game of the 4-game series between Tampa Bay and the Toronto Blue Jays wraps up. Lights up, let's go. Back to your programs. We'll see you then.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Before They Kick Off. We are just moments away from the kick between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Joining me in moments, coming in right out of the Blue Jays game recap studio. He's been with us over the course of our program. Our Dolphins postgame host, Thomas McGregor. We talked about both teams, how they got here to Thursday Night Football. As you know, the Bills and the Dolphins, one team is 2-0, that is Buffalo. The other team is 0-2, that team is Miami. Whoever wins this matchup, if it's Miami, they will go to 1-2. If it's Buffalo, Buffalo will go to 3-0, and Miami will go to 0-3. Miami wins, Buffalo will go to 2-1, and Miami will go to 1-2. Keys to victory coming up in just a few moments, but first, it's time for some final thoughts ahead of kickoff. We're going to start briefly in this final segment of the show with our inactives and follow that up with, first, Thomas's keys to the game for a Miami Dolphins win. Then I will provide my keys to the game for a Bills win. But you know what? I'm going to leave that to Thomas. So I will deal with our inactives, which have come out. And then Thomas will kick us off with our keys to the game for both sides. No surprise, it will probably be the same. For the Buffalo Bills, they will be without wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Defensive back Jordan Hancock is also out. Cornerback Jamarcus Ingram is out. Matt Milano, the linebacker, and defensive tackle Ed Oliver are also out. That's Ed Oliver and Matt Milano, linebacker and defensive tackle. They are out. And of course, closing up shop with the offensive tackle Chase Londette and defensive end Landon Jackson also out. So no Curtis Samuel, no Jordan Hancock, no Jamarcus Ingram, no Matt Milano, no Ed Oliver, no Chase L, and no Landon Jackson for Buffalo. For the Miami Dolphins, they will be without Darren Waller, tight end, cornerback Storm Duck, safety IM, cornerback Julius Brents, wide receiver Taj Washington, and defensive tackle Zeke Biggers. All right, Thomas, Inactives out of the way for Miami and Buffalo, as we are very close to game time. Kickoff at 1:15 p.m. Eastern, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, which is coming up on our program. In fact, it's practically here. So let us in on the keys to the game for both a Miami and Buffalo win. After that, we'll briefly touch on what you can expect on Dolphins postgame and Bills postgame. Spoiler alert, they might be the same. Thomas, the floor is yours. What are our keys to the game?
Well, just briefly gonna bring out here some breaking news that came out hockey-wise, and I know I'm gonna probably talk about this on the latest edition of On the Ice and Behind the Benches. I know I'm gonna talk about this a little bit, but the Los Angeles Kings are in the last season of the Anze Kopitar era. Anze Kopitar is going to probably retire after the 2025-2026 season. This coming just 11 minutes ago from the Los Angeles Kings reporter Steven Taranto of CBS Sports, saying that Los Angeles Kings Anze Kopitar, a franchise great who helped his team secure 2 Stanley Cup trophies between 2012 and 2014, announced today that he will retire at the end of the 2025-2026 NHL season. The upcoming season marks Kopitar's 20th and final season as a player, and the announcement of his retirement comes just after his 38th birthday. Kopitar, who played his entire career with the Kings, enters the final season of a 2-year extension contract that he signed just 2 years ago, 2023, has allowed him to affirm his legacy as one of the greatest players in franchise history. Defensive powers in particular. Kopitar is the Kings' all-time leader in games in 1,454 games. I could go on. Let's see what happens this season. Right now, he says he's retiring, but let's see what happens at the end of the hockey season. Just thought I'd bring in some breaking news. All right, keys to victory for Thursday Night Football, also known as TNF. Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. I'll start with the keys to victory for a Dolphin win. And I mentioned one of them off the top of the show. Get ahead, stay ahead. If you look at the Dolphins' first 2 weeks, they had always found themselves at the back of the pack. The 3-8 final against the Indianapolis Colts in week 1. They didn't start scoring until literally the second half. They didn't start scoring until the second half. In week 2, it was a different story. They scored points, but yet they still fell short, 33-27. So what happens in Buffalo's case? I don't know. Key to victory number 2, put the Bills in comeback mode. So this is for the Dolphin defense. If the Dolphins want any chance of winning this game, their defense needs to show up in big ways. They need to show up in big ways so that the offense doesn't have to worry about the Bills' defense. And that requires big plays like what we had with Washington in last week and what we had with the other player that played out in the Patriots game for the 2-point conversion. Lastly, and this one goes for the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins, and that is, of course, just have fun, stay the course, and make sure you find a way to get what you need to get done. For the Buffalo Bills, the first key to victory is a little different. It's get ahead and keep a lead. We've seen the Buffalo Bills trail in week 1. They came back to beat the Baltimore Ravens. We saw them have a lead and keep it against the New York Jets, but that could have easily backfired, even though they won 30-10. This team feels different, Bills Mafia, I'll give you that, but it also feels like it could be different in ways you never thought possible. So we'll see what happens in this ball game. Second key to victory for the Buffalo Bills, same as the Miami Dolphins. That, of course, is the defense. You want to pressure the Dolphins offense to a lot, and you don't necessarily want to do what the Indianapolis Colts did, but you certainly don't want the Dolphins to get on a run. And those are your keys to victory for tonight's matchup. Whether or not the Buffalo Bills will win this game against the Dolphins is also in question. I will recap it with you half by half, victory speech, game balls of the game, all on Dolphins post game with a look at our Sunday night and Monday night football game picks when the matchup goes final. We'll also dive into what we can expect for Sunday's schedule, and that's pretty much what we'll have for you on Dolphins post game for Bills and Dolphins. So be sure to stick with us when that happens. Scott, you have the final words.
Yes, and same thing here on Bills postgame. Whether or not it's a victory or loss, we will have it for you via first and second half highlights from the scoring summary. We'll do game totals. We'll do victory speech depending on whether it's a Bills win. If it's a Dolphins win and we have the Dolphins victory speech, we will have that for you. Both speeches will be, depending on if there is one that we have for you, they will be in the description of the episode as well. And last thing we will say, the next time that you will hear before they kick off will be before the Patriots game between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, from the same place where next week's contest against the Saints and tonight's contest against the Dolphins is taking place. All right, 5 minutes before kickoff, which means that is it for us on Before They Kick Off. Thomas will catch you on the flip side for the Dolphins post-game show. I will catch you, Bills Mafia, on the flip side. On the Bills side, two teams. One is 0-2. One is 2-0. Who goes 3-0 and 0-3? Who goes 2-1 and 1-2? The answers we find out tonight, and you'll find out in the post-game shows tomorrow or over the course of the weekend. That's it for us. Before They Kick Off is back during Patriots week, but there's a Bills post-game to get to before that. That's tonight. That's following tonight's game and following next week's game, but 1 week at a time. Bills, Dolphins, next. Check in with you after the game. Enjoy the ball game, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.